horizon. It's been said that those that have the eyes to see and the ears to hear will play a paramount role in the furthering of humanity and civilized society. But can civilized society and humanity survive the coming conflicts not seen since a dawn of time in ages bypast? But you can find true forms of information and knowledge in abundance at revolution.radio, freedomslips.com, the #1 listener-supported radio station on the globe. Stand upon the right side of history.
General Homer, you've got to get us out of here now! I won't let you down. I won't let you down, son.
Revolution.
And welcome to Morning Coffee Rants with Dan. I am Dan the Spiritual Anarchist, your host. Tune in here to revolution.radio every 9 o'clock, or every Thursday morning at 9 o'clock. I'm only on my second cup of coffee. I'll be here, God willing. Today's date is, oh my God, already October 16th in the year of all of us, 2025. I got a good show lined up today. One of these days I'm going to get on here and practice all these little sound effects things they have. This is, I'm looking at it right now. Maybe I'll save the listening audience for my practice. But anyway, some quick announcements before I get into some of the stuff I want to talk about today. I'm going to be talking about some metaphysical or supernatural things that have taken place. These things are, to me, they're legit. I'm not giving you secondhand stories. I'm going to give first account stories of things that I've experienced. In the UFO community or in the cryptid community, I'm not as much of a researcher in it as I am considered an experiencer. And I give my experiences to the people who do the research, the people who are on the science part of it. So I'm going to be talking about that, and some of it's going to sound out there. I'm not going to be going into psychic phenomenon and the synchronicities that have happened and occurred and all that, but of course there's all that too, but I'm going to be getting into other things, more tangible. I'm also going to be talking about self-defense. I'm going to be reading things right out of my book, Violence and Ego, that I think are very important for what's going on in the world today. But moving forward here, quick announcements. February 21st and 22nd, Funnel 5, Freedom Under Natural Law. I'm going to be doing a 1 hour presentation there titled The Hammer and the Flame, and how to ignite that forge that all of us have within us to do something about the evil in this world. Because to not speak up about it, to not say something about it, to not tell the truth about it, you're not following the real law. Okay, the real law is love is the law under your will. Love is the law under courage. Okay, love is the law under everything, because if you were to replace any of those words with the word fear, you're a Satanist. Okay? Fear is not the law. Love is the law. And if you're going to do something from a space of love, you'll have a better outcome. You can do the exact same thing out of fear, and your outcome is going to be much different because you're vibrating at a different frequency. So I don't like to call somebody who doesn't vote anti-government. They're just anti-government. No, they're not anti-anything. They're just pro-freedom. So how we think and how we use our words is kind of important. We have to remind ourselves of that. But that's going to be Freedom Under Natural Law 5, which is one of those synchronistic things that I'm not going to talk about today. For me, the number 5 is another one of those numbers. You can find my content on a whole bunch of different, platforms, but mainly on YouTube right now. If you go to YouTube and at Spiritual Anarchist Daniel AR5907, that's at Spiritual Anarchist Daniel AR5907, and you can find my content there. Also, if you go to the onegreatworknetwork.com/Dan-Arnold, I'm starting to get some of my content up there. And I'm going to piggyback real quick on something that I was listening to on the pre-recorded radio show that was playing just before I came on, and I caught a little bit of the end of it. And they were talking about the problem with debating, gender theory with people who want to talk about how many genders there are, different genders. Hold on a second. I'm smoking my pipe, cherry tobacco while I drink my coffee. Anyway, with those types of debates, don't debate them. Why would you debate something don't give any type of validity to debating something like that? That's ridiculous. There's 2 genders. Most people in the visual spectrum that we have here will look up at the sky, and most people can see that it's blue. It doesn't need to be debated. If someone wants to tell you, I'm not saying there isn't some hues of purple at different times of day or whatever, but right now it's a little after 9 in the morning, it's blue. I wouldn't debate that with somebody. I don't debate anything with anybody. If I know the truth of something, I'm not debating, and I won't debate a nitwit who just wants to be right and correct. I don't care how many $5 words they have in their vocabulary. If it's not a conversation for discernment, I'm not trying to debate to win a argument. Okay, we have to stop that stuff right now. So I won't even put any oxygen into that kind of a debate. Like, don't talk about it. Don't validate it in any way. You're giving it a form of validation by even debating it. Just stop the nonsense. Don't even debate it. Not that I have anything against who was talking about it, or not that I have anything. They're having an intelligent way that they want to try to go about it, but it's just that I wouldn't give the mind control people of this world who you're trying to get awakened to at least a degree to know that something weird is going on in the world. Don't bother with that stuff. It's just like the flat earth versus the spherical or round earth debate. I see a lot of people get hot and heavy on that. Okay? And they go to great lengths to try to prove their point. I'm not going to worry about what the shape of this planet I'm living on, when no matter what the shape is, in this reality, on this planet, be it a flat earth, a triangle earth, a round earth, a spherical earth, it doesn't matter. I'm here, you're here, and the human condition here on whatever shape this planet is that of slavery by some human beings who think they have a right to rule other human beings, and I think they're working for extraterrestrials, personally. But I wouldn't debate that kind of nonsense, okay? It's a distraction. So it's not even worth debating. And while I'm on this too, I had a conversation with somebody. I got hit up on an inbox, and if you're listening, I'm not going to say your name. I absolutely think you're a good guy. I served with this guy in the Marine Corps, solid dude. He works for, I believe Homeland Security or Border Agent. I'm not sure. One of those things. And I'm getting kind of sick of all the Charlie Kirk theories. And I posted this, like, okay, be it a hoax, say it's a hoax, or say he's actually dead, or maybe there was a second shooter, or all the other conflicting things that they purposely put out there. Just know, we all know it was a government orchestrated occurrence. Now ask why. Why is the question? What is the end game? Okay? Because only in understanding what the end game may be can anything really be done about it. This is why they want to keep everybody arguing over the minutia. And this is why if you have unhealed wounds or contradictions within your belief systems, you'll table any contradiction you have to win some minor argument instead of getting straight to the root of the cause, or straight to the matter, straight to diagnosing what the problem is so you can treat the problem and so humanity could have a good prognosis. So I wouldn't bother with debating those things anymore. But let me see something here. So he's seen the videos, and he really wants to get his pound of flesh back for what happened to us in 2020. And he wasn't coming at me in any kind of adversarial way. He just questioned me, and he asked, you seem to put or lump that I seem to lump, conservatives and liberals, or left and right, into the same category, that I paint them with the same brush. And I had to, and I clarified, no, I don't paint them with the same brush. Not the voters anyway. Okay? I don't fault the voters, because the voters, many of them, especially middle of the road voters, that they take up some good cause that their party pretends to represent, and they'll vote that party in for what could be considered by anyone in the moderate, if they're not ego identifying with their political, politics or whatever. If they're not, go team, we got to win. They'll have something that they vote for because it's a good cause. Left or right, it doesn't matter. The voters that are middle of the road, to me, they pick a couple of good things that they want to see happen or occur, and that's why they pick the side they pick to vote. They've been fooled and bamboozled, because both sides, whenever their guy gets to that top office, they never deliver. Okay, so I don't fault them. But I also went on to say that, over 5 years ago, every government ruling system in the world worked together to lock the earth down and put diapers on all our faces. Okay, millions of people were coerced into taking poisonous experimental gene therapy injections. All right, how many lives have those ruined, and still will? Who knows how many? All right, to me, and this is what I told him, there is literally zero difference in the trash that wants to enslave humanity. Okay, we have cities going into that troops are actually occupying. These are future smart cities. Okay, all these cities that they're occupying are future slave smart cities. The other side of the aisle is going to use their same excuses of safety and crime to be the excuse that they come and confiscate your guns. So most people can't see beyond the next move that's going to take place. They're not playing chess. They're playing a really simple game of checkers. It isn't 3D chess at all. So I don't know. I don't fault the people who have been bamboozled, fooled, hoodwinked into thinking voting is going to matter. It's not. I just want to be clear. It's the parasites that they vote for that never deliver on what they say they're going to do, and are working very closely together to create division. Okay, through Hegelian dialectic, they create or magnify the problem. They coerce and cause through dark psychology an emotional response from everybody. And then they create the chaos, having the rabble fight one another, and then they'll institute order afterwards. And you'll beg for it. And the order that they're going to institute is their order, what they wanted to do in the first place. So yeah, I'm sick of hearing all that stuff. It doesn't matter. Ask the bigger questions. Okay? And I can tell you right now, the end game, I keep talking about what's the end game. The end game is not which political parasite has the top political office. And it is also not anything biblical. All right? I'll get into the end game and why I know it's the end game, but I don't want to stay on that. Okay? There's a depopulation agenda, and there's a population, which would be a population cull agenda. Culling the population. In 2016, we had 327 billion people in this country, or not billion, I'm sorry, million people in this country, and now we're down to 99-something million. So there's been a serious culling of the herd, so to speak, and it's happening worldwide. And then there's the population control agenda, which can be seen in the gender war, the war on testosterone. The dad, since the mid-1990s, right up through the mid-2010s, probably even now, but I don't watch TV, all the sitcoms, dad's a big goofball to goof on, mom knows best. Okay, that's bullshit. Because in what I'm dealing with, dad knows best. And they have that being done for a reason. It's to weaken everything, keep people stuck in their emotions. But anyway, I don't want to... Well, no, this is called Coffee Rants, isn't it? I should be ranting. But what I want to talk about is something that I have going on where I live. Okay, the skies have gotten very busy. And I'm talking about UAPs, or we used to call them UFOs. They're all over the place. I live in a place where there's not a lot of light pollution. Beautiful starlit skies. I'm always out there looking at night because I just can't I'm completely taken with it. Having lived in the city most of my life, all that light pollution, you don't really get to see the stars that much. So I'm out there looking, and I'm always looking up. And there's so much activity going on in the sky. Yeah, there's an occasional plane that comes over this area, and you know what they are because you can hear them a little bit, or if they're up real high, you can still see their red and white, blue lights. You know, planes have lights. What I'm seeing are just straight silver discs flying, and they're real high. Now, I know some of them are definitely probably what could be considered low-orbiting satellites. I get that. But what I seen last night, there's so many in the sky last night, all of them seem to be traveling east. Every once in a while I'll see one that's traveling south, but the majority of these things are all traveling west to east. And last night I seen one of them disappear completely and then reappear back on its same trajectory and then speed up a little and disappear again. I seen another group of 3 flying in a wedge or a triangle, and I don't know what it is. Don't know what it is. There is a lot of activity though, and theories: could they be spraying these areas that are in the country? Are they releasing something? Is it humans? Is it reverse engineer technology? Is it extraterrestrials? I know I think there's going to be a fake alien invasion. I don't think it's going to be real. I read and believe William Cooper's book, Behold the Pale Horse. And we do have reverse engineer technology. I would urge anyone listening to this to go check out Dr. Stephen Greer's work. Anyone listening to Revolution.radio probably knows about Dr. Stephen Greer, but go check out Dr. Stephen Greer's work in the CE5 protocol. That's Close Encounters of the Fifth Kind. That's human-initiated contact with extraterrestrials through consciousness, through meditation, through these types of things. I am convinced there's some bad ones living on this planet that really never left. I'm convinced they live a real long time. I'm also convinced that they can create a religion or a religious, superstitious people that'll be easy to control later on when they need to, because they have advanced technology and knowledge of math. 3,000 years ago, it's probably really easy for them to know what would be going on in the cosmos right now based on their knowledge of our reality and math. So that's just, and that's just my theory, and it's mirroring up or marrying up that feminine, intuitive intelligence with that linear problem-solving research type of intelligence that men usually have. And I think it's a balance between the two to create holistic intelligence is what we should go for in all of humanity. So we're not stuck in our emotions, or so we're not like so dogmatically left-brained that we can't consider something, at least consider it as being the truth. You don't have to outright accept it, but don't reject it either. Okay? So again, I'm looking up at the sky, seeing all this stuff, and I'm like, wow. All right. So until one of them starts shooting lasers or something, I mean, it could be a bunch of really high flying, drones. But I don't think so. They're all shaped the exact same. They all seem to have the same. They're up there really high. So this is definitely reverse engineer technology. There's definitely a lot of activity in the sky. So I would urge you, look up to your skies at night if you can. Look up and see what's going on. I've seen one disappear really fast. Like it just, and it just didn't blink out. The one I seen last night blinked out. It blinked back in after a little bit because I just was watching the trajectory that it was on, and it's heading east, and then it blinks back out. So I'm like, wow. But throughout my life, I have had, even as a kid, I got hit by a car when I was 6 years old. I died. When I died, I remember being above, like in a corner, above looking down at myself. And at the same time, I could see the lights all around me underneath, like the lights they put on you when they're doing surgery. I counted 12. I was old. I was 6 years old. I can count. There was 12 people around me. I had some weird bowling ball dream, and I kind of talk about that in Rise from Darkness when I talk about my spiritual awakening. But that happened at 6. Then I was maybe 14 years old in West Virginia, and there's this anomalous, orb floating towards me and 2-3 of my friends. My one friend had a dog with us. My one friend, we see it, and it scared us. We all started running up the hill. My one friend, and he yelled, "Dog, dog, dog!" Like the dog was going to come save us from this orb, which may be nothing more than a pure spirit left over from ancient times. But it was real. I've seen it. Okay? They've seen it. So most people would be like, what were you guys smoking? There's no such thing as orbs or this. Yeah, there is. There is. I've seen it. You know who I haven't seen? I haven't seen the bearded invisible guy in the desert sky that they call God. I always almost say devil sky because that's the devil. You've been fooled about that too. But anyways, I've never seen that bearded dude in the desert sky who everyone murders each other over that they call God with a lowercase g. I have the opinion we cannot know the nature of God any more than an ant knows the nature of us. Trying to humanize God and othering God by giving him a beard and saying it's a man that can come. It's not, and it just isn't. But anyway, I could lose half the people listening if I say something that goes against their belief system. That's what this is about. Okay, I've never seen that bearded dude in the desert sky. I've seen an orb, and there's theories on what those are. Is it an ancient soul left over from ancient times? Is it a pure soul that hasn't left the planet yet? There's all kinds of different theories on it. I find it to be amazing because I've seen one. Okay. Then one time I was camping in the Allegheny Mountains, and I'll get through this story kind of quick because I've told it before. I was camping in the Allegheny Mountains alone with my ex-wife. I was in my mid-20s. I had worked in corrections at that point already for a couple years. I was out of the Marine Corps, so I had some training. I was in my mid-20s. And me and her are in this small tent, and it's at night. Well, and me and her are still friends. She would collaborate this story. It's not a story. She would verify this event. It's not a story. So we're in the tent, and next thing you know, something comes running by the tent, and the ground was shaking. And it was like boom, 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 boom. I mean, it ran fast, and it would get far to one side of the tent. It kept running back and forth, east and west. Or was that north and south? It doesn't matter. It kept running back and forth. It did it several times. It made several passes by the tent. We were at the bottom of this hill. Now, I knew, but the first thing that came to my mind back then, it wasn't like, it wasn't a bear. It wasn't on 4 legs. And a bear, even on 2 legs, can't run like that. This thing ran fast. But it was very heavy because the ground vibrated. Now, how heavy do you have to be for the ground to vibrate when you're running? 600 plus pounds? Possibly 800 to 1,000 pounds? This thing was fast. So this was my first encounter with what I would call level A, I believe they call it Sasquatch, Bigfoot encounter. When you can't explain the occurrences through any other explanation, they consider that a level A encounter. And this thing was right by the tent. So as it come running back, like the last time it come running back towards the tent, it cuts off and it runs up the hill. I can hear it going up the hill. When you're out in the woods a lot, you get used to the acoustics. This is why I can tell you the hill. This is why I can tell you it was going back and forth. You get used to these acoustics. You just get used to it. So it's going up the hill, and it runs up the hill and it stops, and then it starts running right back down the hill towards the tent. And it got I didn't know what else to do, so I dove on top of my wife. And I kind of tried to put my hand above my head, I jumped on her to protect her, to try to keep. We were going to get squashed if it wanted to squash the tent, but I kept my hand above my head, and I was waiting for it to cave the tent in. And it veered off back to its right, and then ran away down that direction. I had a firearm with me. I grabbed a gun, dove out of the tent, came up, tent, flashlight. There was nothing there, nothing. And talk about scared. My God, both of us were shaking. So we spent the rest of that night. We should have just left. I didn't want to drive in the dark. We were on the mountain. We spent the rest of that night sleeping in our vehicle with the lights on. Plus I got the fire going real bright. The next day, because we had planned on staying a couple days, the next day, I'm doing some stupid stuff that only somebody in their mid-20s would do, to be honest. I'm planning on them that night. If that thing comes back, and this is way before the movie 13th Warrior. I was basically doing what the Vikings in the 13th Warrior were doing. I was putting spikes in the ground. I was gathering wood the whole day. I wanted to keep the fire going the whole night. I was fortifying the encampment. I was getting ready to fight this thing if I, had to. And the reason I'm telling this story is because in the book Violence and Ego, I talk about sometimes our egos will get us into, or our mouths will write checks that our behinds can't cash. Or our egos will get us into meaningless conflicts that we could avoid. Okay? On a personal note, recently there's a sociopathic psycho who I know wants to do me harm. I'm staying away from that person. He hits women. He's not a good person. His karma's coming. I'm probably going to feel bad for him. But I know in his twisted mind what he wants to do. I avoid that problem. It's called using Miyagi's best defense. Don't be there. So as I'm preparing, and my wife's helping me, she's gathering wood, and we're getting ready. You know, I'm getting ready to fight Bigfoot, I guess. And this literally was the Marine infantry in me coming out, you know. I look over at her, and she just looks stressed, fearful and stressed. And I was like, it dawned on me, wait a minute, what the hell am I doing? We could just leave. We don't have to stay. It's still daylight. So I was like, hey, let's burn this. We've gathered all this stuff. Let's have a huge bonfire here for a couple hours and leave before dark. And that's what we did. I asked her many years later, why were you going along with that? Why the hell didn't you say something to me? And she's like, because it had to do with fighting, so I was doing what you said. I'm like, okay, can you please, next time, don't let me be stupid? Now I know that from research that I've done and people I've talked to in the Bigfoot research community, if you have a pure heart, they can sense that. And it's said that they can sense if you have a firearm or not, too. They usually won't come around if you do. Well, I had a firearm in my tent, and it still came around. But that's neither here nor there. So I've dealt with both circumstances, both armed and unarmed, and I've still had encounters with creatures that were I couldn't explain. Okay, I couldn't explain. And that was just it's just a lesson in don't be there. You don't have to stay for every fight. In this case, you know, who knows? It was a big fight. It had to be something. I don't know what it was. Now we fast forward to some stuff last year where I went to this place where there was known activity. And these things could like mind speak to you. Or they can project their growls or their whatever directly at just you, it seems. It's almost like they're etheric, liminal beings that can go in and out of this 3D reality is what I'm getting at. It's really weird. I had when I was down there last year, this place is called Dog's Run. When I was down there last year, there was ground stomping, tree knocking, all the normal Bigfoot things. And prior to that, the year before, there was an encounter that my friends had, and I didn't have it. My tent was a little bit further away from theirs. Mine was actually closer to the woods. I parked my Jeep in a tactical way, and they didn't mess with me. But that night, I guess they were saying Yahoo to each other. Yahoo, 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 hoo, hoo. So that's how they speak. They're called the Yahoo Bigfoots. I call them the Yahoo Yetis. My two friends that were down there camping, female friends, they heard the Yahoo Yetis went right by their tent. They didn't come by me. And then I was told they didn't want to mess with me or wake me up. They waited till I fell asleep because they knew that I was the man or the male or the protector, and they didn't want to mess with me. And I'm thinking, okay, so I'm going to karate kick a Bigfoot and get ripped in half? But they are higher sentient. They don't want to have a problem. They understand, let's not have to fight if we don't have to. And they're habituated to that area with humans. The last thing one of them wants to do is, this is what I've been told, is hurt a human and then be tracked and hunted down. American Indians did that to them. There's legends of fights that they hunted them down into a cave, and brutal fights. But I had this like etheric singing, whistling that sounded like two, almost I'd say like fey-like creatures coming from the valley over. I'm like, am I hearing that? Coming right at me. Very etheric whistling. It seemed like a male and a female, but it was very melodious, very, or melodic, however you say the word, very in sync. I'm like, wow, that was kind of weird. And then the growl that came at me, and I stayed 2 nights, and at the end of the 3rd night, it was very early, like 2 in the morning of the next day, I'm getting in my Jeep that artificial intelligence has now nicknamed the Jeep of Destiny, and just as I get my 1 foot in, I get my ass on the seat, I'm just getting in my Jeep, I'm already 2/3 of the way in the Jeep, there's 3 whistles that come at me. I can't even, it's 3, I mean, all of it's etheric. That's the whole thing, it's very weird. So, I've been told that even the dogmen, these Yahoo Yetis, some of these beings, they are guardians of liminal spaces, of sacred spaces, usually near a little body of water, usually near a river, a stream, a grove, and I'm just quite amazed by it, actually. And I had a serious encounter this past year, just in September, 18th and 19th. Stayed the whole night. They threw walnuts. There's 2 of them. They threw walnuts at my Jeep. One of them did the Yahoo 5 times. The other one Yahoo 3 times. So that's 8. And it was just weird because the next morning, as the sun's, as the moon's rising with Venus right there in Leo, that's when it occurred to me, the moon is the revealer of secrets. Venus is about love. And then it was underneath the head of the constellation of Leo, and that's when I was like, wow, love under courage. Because I'm going to tell you something. I could have left that night a whole bunch of times. But I stayed there for a specific reason. I stayed there for love. And I wanted to make it to dawn. I wanted to watch the daybreak. And I had these things running around me. And then, I called my friend. They were going around. They were so fast. I can't even describe how fast they were. And then, maybe around 3:30 in the morning, I hear something behind me. I'm in my Jeep. And I thought it was just a walnut falling out of the tree. I had already had several encounters with them, and I stayed in the area. And it wasn't. It ran by the Jeep, and it came by really fast, like right next to the door. I see like a black shadow that runs by. It hits the Jeep, and I don't know what I was thinking, but I was like, and I jumped out of the Jeep and attempted to chase this thing. And I wanted to see it. I wanted to get it on film, and it was an automatic reaction. It wasn't something you have time to think about. I just did it. And it was gone. Not a trace. Not a sound. Not even a footprint. So when I got the audio of it. You could hear it hit the Jeep. You can hear my ruckus. You really can't hear me saying, as I'm jumping out of the Jeep. But once it was gone, I started laughing. This is what guys do. I started laughing. I was like, listen, I like y'all, but quit fucking around. And I actually said that into the night. They didn't mess with me a lot more. They Yahooed one more time at me. And all the stuff, when my campfire and everything went out about 5 in the morning. And then, I only had a couple hours to go at that point. They kind of let me be. That was a very interesting experience to me. Very interesting experience. So there's things out there that we don't know about. Now, could that have been government operatives? I'm not that important of a guy, okay? But could that have been technological? Can technology mimic that? Absolutely yes. They have sonic weapons and sonic things where they can actually call or say something directly to you, and somebody standing 3 feet or 4 feet away from you won't hear it. They have that sonic things that they can make it the crunch on the ground and do all that stuff. So I can't say for sure what it was, but it seemed like it was going by the experience I had there last year and then the experience this year. That's a very active Bigfoot or metaphysical, supernatural, I would say sacred space. I'll probably be going back there yearly. Hold on a second. Okay, with all that said, let me get into something else that's very important. I wanted to share that with everybody because I am going to be covering a wide variety of topics on this show from my own experiences. And what I want to talk about now is, and I didn't realize I was running my mouth. I still got 15 minutes, so I'm still pretty solid. I got a little over 15 minutes, actually. What I want to talk about now is self-defense. Because we have a situation in this country and in the world where the violence is starting to pick up everywhere, and it's going to only get worse. You have to have very good situational awareness, which is being aware of your surroundings. Environmental awareness, be aware of your surroundings, and situational awareness, be around of what living beings are in your surroundings. Because people think that violence is just something that happens on TV, it's everywhere else, it won't happen here. Well, statistically, that's usually true, but statistically, that is on the increase. It's on the rise. I can get into all my theories on why that is, but I do believe it is, a lot of it's orchestrated. But when you put society into a pressure cooker, with troops in cities, with prices going up, contrived, planned food shortages, and just general stress that's just, they're constantly bombarding you with fear. Think back to any assassination that occurred in modern history where you can actually see it filmed. Did they show you the blood over and over and over and over again like they have with Charlie Kirk? No, they didn't. They're just showing it all over the place, right? There's weather going crazy all over the world. They're spraying our skies with poison. It's making gardening a little bit harder, right? So all this stuff's on the rise. So people are stressed and people are going to be violent to begin with, right? What I've seen in the criminal justice system, cities during the COVID-1984 PSYOP lost money just like everyone else. So what was already a monetized system has become even more monetized. And it's getting stressful. And people are getting arrested easier. Now you got troops in cities. Every time you turn on the TV, you're talking about wars. There's shooters out of nowhere just popping up. People are in churches, at cafes, stupid, just areas you wouldn't normally think are happening. I can't state this enough. Violence happens very fast. You're not going to have time to react if you're not already aware of your surroundings. All right? You got to work on wargaming. If you go to some place on a regular basis, wargame. What would I do if someone pulled out a knife and started doing this? What would I do if someone had a gun? What's cover? What can I hide behind that'll stop a bullet? How do I escape? What can I use as an improvised weapon? In my arms, can I get to mine? Can I make an accurate shot that maybe put this threat down? You'll never have a chance if you're not paying attention to your surroundings, if your head's stuck in your phone. Okay? If something seems off about somebody, you get this gut-wrenching reaction. You get this feeling about somebody. You get this gut feeling. Pay attention to that. That is thousands of years of evolution talking to you. That's like having a spider sense. Your spider senses are tingling when that happens. If something seems off about somebody, it's off. And you're better off, don't go walking around. I'm not saying walk around being paranoid, and don't be in all this anxiety. But at the same time, pay attention to your surroundings. I'm going to, let me see here. I'm going to read out of my book, and I'll go into this next week, because what I want to do is I'm going to add stuff. as I read. Remember, I wrote this in 2016 when I first retired. From police work. So the victim selection process. A predator of any type does not want to fight. They select their targets based on the probability of success. You know, they're not going to go after him because he might look like he will put up a fight, or no, not her because she looks too assertive. They want to get somebody who's, I'm going off the book now, they want to get somebody who's distracted, who's an easy victim. They want an easy target. Let me see here. Yeah, and, the predator's selection process on who their prey is going to be, you know, predicated upon their desperation, whatever resource they want to get from you, or for whatever their mission in this case is, what's going on nowadays, because you're going to be dealing with both. You're going to be dealing with some people who are just like maturing candidates. Let me keep going here. I want to get to some main points here. Let's see. See, a lot of this was about, a lot of what I wrote here was about personal self-defense, but it does kick over to the larger self-defense. You know what, let me just go back and do what I said I was going to do. I'm just going to go back and keep reading. Okay. So you have to appear and endeavor to cut an appearance of a confident and alert person. Remember, the predator selection process will be predicated upon their desperation for whatever resource they perceive you as, and you may be nothing more than a mission to them. All right, in a real self-defense situation, you more than likely will have been attacked without seeing it coming, or barely have had time to react. If you're aware enough to catch a glimpse of movement before the attack, if you aren't simply incapacitated in the initial attack, immediately counterattacking savagely and ruthlessly with everything you have in the first seconds of the attack becomes vital to your survival. This is not the easiest action for many people to take. Your counterattack must be trained to an automatic response regardless if it's with your bare hands or a defensive weapon. You know, improvised weapon, anything, a fork, a spoon, I don't care what it is. There was a Army Ranger about 5 or 6, 7, 8 years ago that was reported to have gotten the first confirmed kill of an enemy ever with a plastic spork. I'm not going to get into the gore of that, but all right, I also don't agree with border followers murdering people for their masters. I have a whole different outlook, and this is after 27 years of services of one kind or another. Keep this in mind. You know, a lion on the Serengeti will not attack a full-grown buffalo alone. The risk of injury is just too great. They instead will select a smaller prey animal to attack because the lion knows with this prey is the larger and stronger animal. So they're going to utilize the elements of surprise, or they want you to be distracted, or they want to know they can win. See, bullies of any kind, predators, they won't get into a fight that they might lose, because really they're cowards. They'll only get into fights that they know they can win. You know, I had somebody try to attack me. He must have forgot that I wasn't a woman. I won't get into that. But you want to endeavor to not look like prey. These are case in points I'm giving. I'm giving like actual things here. I'm going to get into the stages of a predatory attack. I can't stress this enough. You have to pay attention to your surroundings. Have situational and environmental awareness. Okay? There are common methods an attacker may use to gain your trust. if this is going to be a personal attack. It could be anything from a panhandler to a sociopathic killer. The tactics take place in 3 stages. Stage 1 is the approach. At this stage, the predator is closing the distance, maybe with a friendly demeanor. He may say he needs directions or is lost. It can be difficult to discern harmful intent in such an instance because your basic human instinct is to be helpful, especially if you're a good person. Yeah, but this is when your gut feelings about danger should be kicking in. One thing to remember at this point is that although many people are naturally very friendly, people who really need directions can sometimes appear to be in a state of slight crisis. They're not really happy about being lost, right? Or agitation, because they might be really running late to someplace. If you don't observe this, it still may not mean much, but it is an indicator that you should put up your guard. And I was mainly speaking to the ladies. How many men actually ask for directions? They may want to ask you for a cigarette. Stage 2. Okay, so the approach is they're coming towards you. They're wanting to get your attention. They're smiling. They maybe want to ask you questions. Stage 2 is like the interview stage. At the interview stage, the predator is attempting to put you at ease and develop a rapport with you in a small period of time. At this stage, it can be someone you have never seen before, or it can be someone you see often, in a college class, for example, or at a big workplace. They may try to demonstrate that you both have something in common. Okay? Serial killer Ted Bundy was said by women to be both charming and attractive. Remember, this can be that serious, or it can be a panhandler turned mugger who wants to put you at ease, which makes you easier target. Remember, the predator doesn't want the fight. The predator wants easy prey. Stage 3 would be the attack. The attack will be fast and hard if it's gotten to this stage. Your reaction, even if you are trained, will always be slower than the attacker's action, because they know when they're going to attack. You don't. You're always going to be behind the 8 ball in these instances. It's important to know what the reactionary gap is. That is that time, that is that space between you and any given person that may be a danger to you. What is the amount of time you can effectively react to defend yourself in that given space? That is referred to as the reactionary gap. I usually like double arm's length as a reactionary gap. 6 feet, let's say. 6 feet. Like they said with COVID, 6 feet. Yeah, I wrote this in 2016. Wow, okay. If it's a bludgeoning tool, it's about 12 feet. If they have a knife, it's 21 feet. The biggest thing that I'm going to say about this is, and next week I'm going to get into shutting down the threat. I'm going to get into how to war game and what your active shooter responses could be that might save your life. And this is based on me being in critical incidents, chaotic environments, and it's on my own personal experience and training. It's also a lot of training that I'm going to get into this stuff. In this episode, with what I was seeing in the world, I had this book since 2016. I haven't tried to sell the book. I've given books away. I've given a lot away. You can even find it online for free at certain places. But I'm going to really push this book because I think it can help people. You can get it on Amazon. It's called Violence and Ego. The biggest takeaway that I can tell you from right now is the world's getting violent. Violence happens very fast. Very fast. Anyone that's been in any incident will tell you that. This is why it's so easy to orchestrate something and create a panic so quickly, because everyone instinctively knows how fast violence can be. But if you're not paying attention, you're giving them the upper hand. Everywhere I go, I watch where I'm at. I'm looking around me. I'm not like paranoid looking or anything, but I'm paying attention to who's around me. I'm doing a threat assessment of every human being I see. I want to know what their demeanor is. I'm trying to pick up energy from them. Energy usually doesn't lie. Listen to that gut instinct you have. And if there's a bad energy coming from somebody, if somebody looks shady, suspicious, if they got their hands in their pockets, if they're carrying a backpack, small backpack, even though that's become real, trendy now, pay attention to that. Because violence is coming to a place near you. They want chaos in this country. You cannot institute a one-world government with a united America. So they want chaos, and they want to divide the place, and they want lots of violence, because then, for safety, they can do their authoritative control. So I already know what the end game with that is, so what I'm doing now is going to give you tools to help you hopefully protect yourself in these cases. And your awareness of your surroundings is the number one thing. Carrying a firearm or some type of makeshift tool that you can use as a weapon is another thing. Wargaming where you're at, if you go someplace on a common basis. When you're going from point A to point B, take different routes once in a while. Change up your routine. Don't become too. We're all creatures of habit and routine. Bad guys know this. But be sure to change up your routes, change up your routine, change up your gym times, stuff like that. But anyways, that's all I got for today. This went by quick. I might have to start going to a 2-hour show pretty soon. Until next week, everybody stay safe. Nothing but love. Train. Stay frosty. If you're not training, someone else is, man. Peace out, everybody. Stay safe.
Listening to Revolution Radio.